Hello, Mr. Conn. Thank you for letting me interview you regarding Erickson's psychosocial stages of development. The purpose of this interview is for you to demonstrate your understanding of the theory and how the theory applies to you and students you currently teach or plan to teach. So, question number one. Imagine I have never heard of Erickson's theory of psychosocial development. Briefly explain salient features of Erickson's theory of psychosocial development.
So basically, there are 8 stages of development of the human or of an individual. They go through 8 stages of development. Now, these 8 stages vary from age group, and they're determined basically by your age group. So you have from as soon as you're born to when you pass away. And each of these stages determines basically the type of individual that you're going to be. And each one is actually related to each other. So the experiences that you go through early on in life shape your outcome and how you're basically, or it shapes the type of person who you will become later on in life.
At what stage of development do you see yourself in now?
So right now, I would say that I am intimacy versus isolation. That's the specific stage that I'm in. The reason being is I'm in my early 20s. According to these documents that I've been studying, this stage is basically from your 20s to your 40s, early adulthood. And basically what it's saying is that you slowly start to understand who you are. You start to determine where you're fitting into society. You start to let go of early relationships that you built as a kid, and you start to look for long-term relationships. So intimacy, that's where the intimacy comes from.
Explain how being at this stage of development, this may influence your behavior and outlook in your classroom.
So I think it's a pretty cool opportunity, pretty cool time period to start teaching because you're not yet past this stage in your life to where you don't have everything figured out yet. Because you don't have everything figured out yet, you can have this connection with your students who still are figuring themselves out as well. And because of this connection, you can really start to relate with your students. And I feel that that's one thing that your students will always look for is that connection between their teachers.
Identify at what level your students are.
So I'm teaching, or I taught this past year, 7th graders, and it's funny because every time I mention that to another one of my teacher friends, they're like, "Oh my goodness, like, sorry or good luck," because they say it's one of the hardest age groups to teach, and I think it's because they're right on the edge of 2 specific stages of development: the industry versus inferiority, and identity versus role and confusion. Now, this age group that I'm teaching are from like 11 to 13, kind of depends. Some young 11-year-olds and then 13-year-olds. But basically, they're figuring out their own self-interests. They're figuring out who they are. Their biggest role or their biggest influence are their peers. So every single thing that they're surrounding themselves with is influencing the type of person they're becoming. So it's a really, add that with, hormones and all new types of emotions that can be a little chaotic in the classroom.
Explain how being at this stage of development, this may influence their behavior and outlooks in your classroom.
So, like previously mentioned, we kind of talked about how there's a connection between the students, between me as their teacher. Also, you kind of look at their experiences in the classroom. So they're basically taking all of this information in, all of this new, not just content, but new experiences, new things that they're learning, whether it be from their peers, from things at home, things that they're seeing for the first time. They're really starting to become their own. And because of this, it's shaping the classroom structure in general.
What might be some disconnects between you and your students, keeping the differences in the 2 stages in mind?
So we talked a lot about this connection. A disconnect could be that the students that I'm teaching right now are truly trying to figure themselves out, to where they have almost an identity crisis to a certain extent. They are really trying to determine the type of person they're going to be. I feel like at my age, I don't have everything figured out, but I have a pretty good idea of the type of person who I would like to be and the type of person I should be. And because of this, I'm surrounding myself with my peers, where my students, they are just basically trying to figure out who they are going to be. There's a lot of different factors than that. So this disconnect can happen definitely because of the age group.
Do you have any final comments?
No, I just want to point out that I got my information from Sprout Video. It's 8 Stages of Development by Eric Erickson. It's Sprout Schools. And the Psychology Notes HQ, which is an online resource for psychology students, as well as our textbook in class. But